I woke up inside a novel as the rich, spoiled villain. Right from the start, I saved the male lead from his miserable fate and threw all my energy into boosting his career. The female lead, Ava, was as obsessive and selfish as ever, always ready to sacrifice anyone for her version of love. When she confessed her love in the rain and got brutally turned down, I seized the moment, flipped the script, and got the male lead together with his college senior instead. That sent Ava straight into a painful, regret-filled chase. In the end, I rewrote the whole story exactly the way I wanted. I had transmigrated into the vicious, supporting male lead character. And here was the female lead, actually asking the male lead to take the fall for my crime and serve time in my place. She promised to marry him once he finished his sentence. I shot straight to the police station in the dead of night to turn myself in. Was she out of her mind? Don't drag me into this legal nightmare. I didn't mean to sound dramatic, but honestly, Ava, you were something else. When I opened my eyes, I heard a man and a woman talking right outside my bedroom door. James, if you take the fall for Danny and go to jail for him, I will marry you in 5 years. As a flood of foreign memories poured into my head, I suddenly realized I had transmigrated into a melodramatic, over-the-top romance novel as the vicious supporting male lead. I, Daniel, was the perfect image of a rich, handsome heir. I grew up with the female lead, Ava. We were childhood friends, and I was her Prince Charming. One night, I got drunk and accidentally hit someone with my car. To protect me, Ava convinced the male lead, James, to take my place and serve 5 years in prison. In exchange, she swore she would marry him when he got out. But 5 years later, the only thing that came back was his cold corpse. Heartbroken, Ava realized far too late that the one she truly loved was James. Later, at a reception, Ava unexpectedly ran into a man who looked almost exactly like James. She then learned that James had faked his death and had been lying to her the whole time. She was furious, yet secretly thrilled, torn by emotions she refused to acknowledge. No chapter number. The two crossed paths again, and the messy, twisted love story began spiraling out of control all over again. In their eyes, I was nothing but a prop, a tool to test their so-called love. After I kept sticking my nose into their relationship, stirring up trouble and messing everything up, Ava finally saw my true nature, and I ended up dying a miserable death. Honestly, I was the most pitiful, unlucky wretch in the entire story. I bolted upright in bed, went straight to the door, and peeked outside. The man was tall, the woman slender. James' eyes were bloodshot. He gave Ava a bitter smile and said, "Is this really what you want? Fine, I'll do it." My heart lurched violently. Don't agree, man. That was literally aiding in covering up a crime. Right then, Ava seemed to sense something and turned to look at me, her face full of concern. "Danny, why are you out of bed? You're still not feeling well. Go lie down and rest." James stared at us blankly. I forced a weak smile and said, "I suddenly remembered I left something in the car. I need to go get it." In the original story, the accident had just happened, and Daniel panicked. He fled the scene in fear, then rushed straight to Ava's place, only to pass out for shock. Damn, this guy really was a useless villain. Ava hesitated a moment and asked, "What is it?" "I'll send someone to get it for you." I pretended to hesitate and said, "It's important. I'll feel better if I get it myself." Thinking I was worried about leaving evidence, Ava finally nodded and agreed. I shot out the door, jumped on a bicycle, and pedaled like crazy toward the nearest police station. 2 officers on duty saw me burst in, all flustered. "Can we help you?" one of them asked. Gasping for breath, I said, I want to turn myself in." Their faces turned serious instantly. I hurriedly confessed everything. I drank half a bottle of beer, then got behind the wheel and hit someone. I panicked and ran off. Then I realized I was illegal, so I rushed back as fast as I could. I already called 911 on the way here, but I don't know how the victim is now. Please send someone to check. Like opening a floodgate, I babbled out every detail, even rolling up my sleeve. "Oh, and you should do a blood test, an alcohol test too." The 2 officers exchanged a confused look. This level of honesty probably set a new record in the entire history of people turning themselves in. Even so, they still moved quickly, detained me, and sent officers to the scene immediately. I finally collapsed into a chair, feeling a little relieved. Okay, hopefully I made it in time. Right then, my phone buzzed. It was Ava. "Danny, why are you taking so long? Did something happen?" she asked, sounding worried. I coughed. I thought about it and figured this was all my fault. So I went and turned myself in. "What?" Ava let out a shocked gasp. "I'm at the police station now. I can't explain clearly over the phone," I muttered, then hung up directly. In the original plot, Daniel had just come back from overseas and was stunned to see Ava, who used to trail behind him every day, now standing next to a man named James. Eaten up with jealousy, he accidentally spilled wine on himself, pretending to be drunk just to test Ava. To make it look real, he only took 2 sips. His blood alcohol level was nowhere near enough for a DUI. More importantly, the person he hit wasn't badly hurt at all, just a small scrape. Initially, after the accident, Daniel did panic, but he didn't bolt right away. Instead, he went over to check on the person he'd hit. Turned out the victim already had a fractured bone from earlier. The collision barely made it any worse. Seeing a chance, Daniel cut a deal with the victim, offering a large sum of money in exchange for them putting on a show with him. He dug a trap, planning to make Ava personally hand James over to the police. That way, James would have a criminal record that followed him forever, and their relationship would inevitably crack, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Daniel firmly believed that in 5 years, Ava would have long forgotten about James and fall head over heels for him again. On my way to the police station, I had already talked things through with the victim. The money had been transferred, and they promised to tell the truth later. By now, the victim should have been taken to the hospital for a thorough examination, the very same hospital where they had first gone for that fracture. Ava rushed to the police station not long after. As a pampered rich girl, she somehow managed to get the officers watching me to step aside and wrangled a brief, private meeting with me. "Danny, that was too reckless," she said, her pretty face full of anxiety. "Your health is already terrible. What about your surgery?" "Surgery? What's surgery?" It took me a moment to react, and then I went stiff. Oh hell, how did I forget that? Before sending James to prison, she had actually had one of his kidneys forcibly removed to save me from kidney failure. And that so-called kidney failure was also one of Daniel's made-up illnesses used to trick Ava into hurting James. It was a key turning point in the story that later let James fake his death and successfully slip out of her life. The scheme itself was flawless, but the issue was I was not the original Daniel. Just imagining the male lead losing a kidney for me made my own back ache in sympathy. Staring at her, I hurriedly said, "I was just about to tell you. Once this matter is settled, I want to go for another full checkup. Maybe they diagnosed it wrong." Ava's lips trembled. Then she suddenly threw herself into my arms, her eyes turning red. "Daniel, I know this is hard for you to accept, but don't worry. I will always stay by your side." Goosebumps crawled all over me. "Are you serious? You were still tangled up in bed with the male lead yesterday, and today you are throwing yourself into another man's arms. Don't you feel exhausted?" I gently pushed her away. "Let's wait for the hospital's update first. By the way, where is James? Didn't he come with you?" And my question, a trace of annoyance, flashed across Ava's face. "Don't mention him," she snapped. Of course James would not show up now. What kind of man could stand there watching the woman he loves cling to another guy like this? But thinking about it, that might actually be a blessing. Maybe it would help him realize sooner that this female lead was completely unhinged and bolt while he still had the chance. "Are you going to stay here and wait with me, then?" That way, she could not slip away to spout more nonsense in front of the male lead. Ava naturally did not turn me down. What she was most afraid of was me actually being thrown in prison. Before long, she stepped outside to make a call. I watched her knit her brows, worry written all over her face. I yawned. She was clearly on the phone looking for help, but it really would not change anything. Yeah, this was a melodramatic, possessive romance, but even a rich heiress was not all powerful. Otherwise, the original male lead would not have honestly sat in prison for 5 whole years. Plus, without my secret scheming behind the scenes this time, the accident was just a minor traffic bump. It was never going to blow up like it did in the book. The person I hit was sent to the hospital, and the results showed only 2 small bruises. The only serious fracture was an old injury. The alcohol in my blood was also far below the threshold for a criminal offense. In the end, the decision came down to 12 points deducted from my license and a $2,000 fine. I was very satisfied with that outcome. I had more than enough money anyway. If I could not drive later, I would just hire a full-time chauffeur. Most crucial of all, the male lead no longer had to sit in jail for me. Ava clearly could not figure out why it ended like this. So I added a bit of explanation to smooth over her doubts. Actually, I did not drink that much that day. I only accidentally spilled some wine on myself. Good thing nothing serious happened, or it really would have turned into a big headache. Her suspicion finally faded. She gently leaned her head against my shoulder, her voice soft and clingy. "I'm just glad you're okay. You have no idea how scared I was when you showed up at my place that night." I rolled my eyes inwardly. "With nerves this weak, you still dare to plan something so illegal. Unbelievable." Even so, I still had to maintain Daniel's basic persona as a scummy man. So I added casually, "By the way, can you come with me to the hospital for a follow-up examination?" The last medical report was completely forged by Daniel, and going back to the hospital now would tie everything up neatly. Ava agreed without hesitation. "Of course I will go with you. We can leave right away." She even started calling a private hospital, trying to book out the whole place. I hurried to stop her and insisted, "No need to make such a big fuss. A university-affiliated teaching hospital is fine." Ava frowned slightly. "That place is always crowded. It might bother you." I forced down my annoyance. "What do you know? That is one of the best public hospitals around. Most private hospitals do not even have complete equipment. What's the point of going there? I don't want to put anyone out. It is just a checkup. It will not take long." Seeing how firm I was, Ava finally gave in and went with me to the hospital. I just did not expect to run into James there. He was holding a thermos with faint dark circles under his eyes. Clearly, he had been up all night, and even with that worn-out look, he was still effortlessly attractive because, of course, a male lead is always a male lead. No chapter number, James spotted me, and Ava too. A flicker of suppressed emotion flashed in his eyes. Just as we were about to walk past each other, Ava suddenly called out to him, "What are you doing here?" James' expression stayed cold. "None of your business," he replied. His distant attitude obviously stung Ava. She was about to keep questioning him when a young woman in a white coat appeared at the end of the corridor. "James, why are you so late?" Following the voice, I turned my head and saw a gentle, refined face. She walked up to James with worry in her eyes. But when she caught sight of me and Ava, she paused for a second. "Are these your friends?" she asked. James shook his head. "No, let's go." I could not help glancing at Ava. Oh man, her expression was practically green with jealousy. Ava stared fixedly at James and that woman's backs as they left. If I had not been standing right here, I'm sure she would have rushed after them, demanding to know what was going on. Right then, I finally remembered who that woman was. Hannah. Hannah was James' senior from college, a brilliant med student who had fallen for him at first sight and quietly stayed by his side for years. Later on, she was the one who helped James fake his death so he could get away from Ava. If the timeline was right, James' mother should have just had a sudden heart attack, and he had rushed her to the hospital. James' background was pretty miserable. A father hooked on gambling who vanished after leaving behind a mountain of debt, forcing James to carry all of it alone. Ava had paid off those debts and kept James by her side to use however she liked. To put it bluntly, James sold himself to Ava. During the next 4 years, he fell deeply in love with her. After all, she was young, pretty, and dazzling. It was not until Ava told him to take the blame for Daniel's crime that he finally realized how stupidly naive he had been to think her love was real. But Ava herself still had no idea, assuming James would endure anything just for the chance to marry her someday. In her eyes, that promised marriage was the greatest reward she could bestow. During James' 5 years in prison, It was Hannah who took care of his mother day in and day out. Unfortunately, right before his release, his mother passed away, despite everything Hannah did. This only made James hate Ava even more. How this whole mess still managed to end in a happily ever after, I honestly have no idea. My sudden arrival seemed to have derailed the plot a little, making the female lead and the supporting female lead run into each other much earlier than planned. But it also worked like a catalyst. Ava looked like she was seconds away from grinding her teeth into dust. Right now, she was still too naive to realize that what she was feeling was jealousy. Though honestly, even if she understood, it would not change anything. James' mother was critically ill, and Ava was still tangled up in love and possessiveness here. How could she possibly compare to Hannah, who quietly stood by him through all of it? From where I stood, Hannah was a much better match for the male lead. "Ava," I called out, pulling her out of her spiraling thoughts. She quickly straightened her expression and said, "I will go with you to pick up the test results." As expected, my body was completely fine. I let out a long breath of relief. At least the male lead's kidney was safe for now. But Ava clearly did not share my light mood. Her mind was obviously elsewhere, still circling around James. You were not there when he needed you. Now that he does not need you anymore, you start feeling guilty. I decided to poke at her a little. We did not get the chance to ask why he came here. Do you want to go check on him? Ava's face darkened instantly. We're not close. Why should I care about him? I nearly applauded her right then and there. Wasn't she the classic case of a soft heart hidden behind a hard mouth? He was right here, and she could not even bring herself to ask, "What's wrong?" What was the point of having a mouth then? If not for her, he would not have suffered so much. Clearly, seeing Hannah and James together just now had completely thrown Ava off balance. She did not want to stay a moment longer. She hurriedly pulled me and headed out. After I dropped her off at home, I took a taxi back to the hospital to find James. When he saw me show up, he was clearly taken aback. "You're looking for me?" I did not beat around the bush. "Are you in urgent need of money right now?" A flash of weariness and vigilance crossed James' eyes. I understood his reaction. After all, Ava had just asked him to take the fall for me. In his eyes, I was definitely not a good person. I glanced at the hospital bed where his mother had finally fallen asleep, then gestured for him to step outside to talk. He hesitated for a moment, then followed me into the hallway. "Your mother needs surgery, and it is not cheap," I said. "Then there is the recovery period after surgery, which will also cost a large amount of money." I handed him a bank card. "The money in this account should be just about enough." James did not reach for it. "What are your conditions? Want me to leave Ava?" I let out a soft laugh. "Not that extreme. I want to invite you to work at my company." James was stunned. His face showed shock and disbelief. "What did you say?" "I have seen your graduation project. It is pretty good. My company just happens to need a designer. If you are willing to come, then consider this money in advance on your salary." James had studied design in college. His talent was simply insane. According to his original life path, after graduation, he could have easily soared to success, his career taking off. But then Daniel's scheming landed him in prison. 5 years later, he reinvented himself and stormed back into Ava's world, already the CEO of a large advertising firm. This guy was a walking money printer. If I did not snatch him up now, when else would I do it? James was silent for a few seconds before confirming. "So you want to buy my designs?" Wait, that did not sound right. He stared at the card for a while, as if finally making a decision. He took a deep breath and said, "Fine, I agree. For this year, you can put all my designs under your name." Damn, I only then remembered that part. In the original book, Daniel had stolen James' work, won a major award, and destroyed James' reputation in the process. That had happened less than a month earlier. James had mentioned it to Ava, but she brushed it off, saying, "You are just jealous." They had a Cold War and nearly broke up. Now, I suddenly appeared throwing money at him, saying I wanted to work together. His misunderstanding was completely normal. I quickly waved my hand. "No, no, no. I genuinely want to hire you to work. All works will be under your name. That competition thing was my fault. I apologize to you. I will return the prize money and pay you extra compensation. If you're still not comfortable, I can even give you some company shares. Come on." This was the future big boss. Being a shareholder and working with him was a guaranteed profit. James probably thought I had something wrong with my head, but he needed that money far too much. In the end, he did not ask anything else and nodded in agreement. No chapter number. After handing over the bank card and officially sealing the deal with James, I felt like I was floating on air. Not only had I banked the good karma from this act of kindness, but I had also effortlessly paved a path for myself to make money with zero effort later on. Even more importantly, Ava would have no reason later to come after me for the sake of her so-called true love. Being rich and handsome, a rich heir just loafing around every day, waiting to die, was wonderful just to think about. To celebrate, I invited a few of my good-for-nothing friends out for drinks to unwind a little. "Hey, Daniel," one of the guys joked. "How come we did not see Miss Ava today? She actually let you come out alone to have fun." I raised my glass and smiled. "She is busy. Calling her to a place like this would just kill the vibe." Another friend joined in. "Bro, you know what? So many men try every trick just to get close to her. But with you, it is the complete opposite. You avoid her like the plague. You really do not know how to appreciate a good thing." There was a hint of envy in his voice, no doubt about it. I laughed along a couple of times. But deep down, I knew perfectly well. These naive young guys, how could they know that the one she really had her eye on was James? But honestly, a woman like Ava, when she likes you, she is truly obsessive. But once she turns on you, she is also absolutely deadly. Being her favorite sounded nice, like being heaven's chosen one. But put bluntly, it was a time bomb bound to blow up sooner or later. Just then, one of the guys came back from the restroom, plopped down next to me, lowered his voice with a gossipy expression. "Daniel, guess who I just saw downstairs?" I asked without much interest. "Who?" He leaned in closer. "James." "What?" I was taken aback. "What is he doing here?" "What else?" The guy sneered. Of course, Ava dumped him. That idiot actually thought she loved him. She was just toying with him the whole time. Poor guy still hoped to live off her. In her eyes, he was nothing but a worthless thing. He said, handing me a cigarette, and even moved to light it for me. Just a halfway, decent-looking pretty boy. He really thinks he is somebody. He is not fit to compete with you for Ava. He was obviously kissing up to me. Everyone knew Ava liked me. She never disagreed with anything I said. But somehow, hearing it just felt wrong. I pushed his hand away and stood up. "I will go down and take a look." Leaving the private room, I walked to the railing on the second floor and looked down. Sure enough, I spotted James immediately. This was a members-only club. The first floor was an open lobby. The second floor was private rooms for VIPs. James was obviously being harassed right now. A middle-aged woman in her 40s, dressed glamorously, stood drunkenly blocking him. What is wrong with having a drink with an old friend? Her words were already slurred. James' face was ice cold. Back then, to pay off the debts his gambling addict father had left, he had briefly worked here. After he got together with Ava, he finally left this place for good. But now word had spread that I had come back from overseas and that Ava had dumped him. Those rich women who had eyed him back then were all waiting to make their move. I was just about to head downstairs when suddenly a mocking, laughing voice reached my ear. "Miss Ava, are you not going over to check on him?" I was stunned and turned my head. To my surprise, I saw Ava was also here. She had dressed up meticulously, wearing a perfectly tailored gown, her makeup flawless. She exuded elegance and wealth from head to toe. Beside her stood a man who looked like her business partner. Ava used to often bring James to these kinds of social events. But today, she was socializing upstairs while he was left downstairs, ignored. You could basically guess what had happened between them. Ava had most likely really dumped James. Otherwise, the man beside her would not dare speak in that sarcastic tone. Just then, someone downstairs looked up, saw Ava, and shouted, "Miss Ava." All eyes immediately turned to her. James' gaze also followed, first landing on Ava, then shifting to me. His expression darkened instantly. I hesitated for a moment. This scene was completely not in the original storyline. According to the original book's timeline, James should be in jail right now waiting for his trial. Yet here we were, running into each other at a nightclub. What would happen from here? Who could say? Ava's voice suddenly cut through my chaotic thoughts. Dunny, My heart lurched. I had hidden myself pretty well. How did she notice me so fast? I had clearly told her that I was going to stay home and rest tonight. Who could have expected to bump right into her here? Before I could even get my words together, Ava was already walking over in her high heels. I had no choice but to steel myself and force a smile. A friend suddenly called me out for a bit. It was a last-minute thing. I did not get a chance to let you know. Do not be upset, okay? Ava's expression immediately softened, a world apart from the cold look she had just given James. Like night and day. She tilted her head slightly and gave me a sweet smile. Why would I be upset? Great. This little show was meant for James. James saw the whole scene clearly. Then he looked away, simply pretending not to see us. The drunk woman who had been bothering him earlier, seeing Ava there, was taken aback for a moment. But seeing how cold James was, she actually became even more brazen. Oh my, Miss Ava, I really did not expect to run into you here. I was just catching up with James over a drink. Do not misunderstand, Miss Ava. Ava leaned slightly against me and casually glanced toward the floor below, then spoke coldly. Misunderstand what? He's just doing the low-class work he knows best. My head buzzed. If you had just kept your mouth shut, no one would have said anything to you. But you just had to add that comment. I quickly looked at James. He stood there looking composed, but the tight set of his jaw betrayed everything. This was like stabbing someone straight through the heart. To be humiliated like that in public, no one could just swallow that. I lowered my voice and said to Ava, "It does not look good. Maybe you should." But Ava's expression did not change one bit. He is the one who chose to come to this kind of place. Who else is to blame? I had no choice but to swallow my anger and step back. This woman was completely unreliable. If I did not separate these two quickly, something was bound to happen. Just then, a commotion broke out downstairs. Applause and whistles mixed together. I looked over. I saw James throw his head back and, in one go, down the entire drink in his hand. Ava's face instantly flushed crimson. She was livid. James set down the empty glass, his voice cold. "Miss Zhao, can I leave now?" That woman laughed so hard she shook. She was clearly enjoying it. Want to leave after just one drink? That is really disrespectful. Back then, you were the legendary drink god who became famous overnight. What? Now you will not even give me the honor of a couple more drinks. I took a deep breath and called out, "James!" No chapter number. Everyone's attention immediately turned to me. Their eyes were full of eager anticipation for a show. The two men by Ava's side were clashing head-on in public for the first time. Whatever happened next was sure to become the hottest gossip of the night. Even Ava frowned and said, "Danny." I put on a relaxed face and said, "I actually have a meeting with him tomorrow at the office to go over design drafts. If he drinks himself under the table now, he will not be able to show me those drafts tomorrow, and that would be a real problem." Without waiting for Ava to answer, I walked straight over to James. "Did you drive yourself? If not, I will have my driver take you home." James looked at me in surprise. He had just uttered, and was about to speak when his face suddenly twisted. He grabbed his chest, gripping it tightly. I was stunned. "What is wrong?" The rich woman sneered dismissively. "Just one drink. Can it really make someone this sick?" Before she could finish, James collapsed. I instinctively caught him. "Hey, what is happening?" His face was terrifyingly pale. My heart tightened. I yelled, "Call an ambulance." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Ava, not caring about appearances, rushing down from upstairs. She was rarely this flustered. None of her usual calm was left. James had a congenital heart condition. Sitting in a hospital corridor, I let out a long sigh. In the original story, his first heart attack had happened right before he was sent to prison, after a huge fight with Ava. I thought that by saving him from prison, that accident would probably not happen. But it still was not avoidable. Ich glänzt over. Ava was still sitting there in a daze, completely still, as if she had lost her soul. She had had no idea before that James had a heart condition. If he had not been brought in so fast today, the consequences would have been unthinkable. Just then, Hannah came out of the room. Her eyes settled on me. "Daniel, I stood up at once. I am here. She studied me for a moment, then said, he is awake. He wants to see you. Me? I was stunned. After waking up in the hospital, his first request was not to see Ava. Ava had already gotten to her feet, planning to go in herself, but Hannah's words stopped her in her tracks. She stood there frozen. She frowned, shooting Hannah a vicious glare. Her meaning was obvious. In her eyes, Hannah was lying to keep her out. But the issue was Hannah was the lead doctor, and this was a hospital. If Ava really started trouble, she would only embarrass herself. I ignored her mood. I nodded. Fine. I will go in and see him. James lay in a hospital bed, his face pale as paper. When he heard the door open, he turned his head and glanced at me, lacking any spark of life, as if all his energy had been drained. I sat down beside the bed. I racked my brain for a long time, and finally managed to come up with, medicine is very advanced now. There are many new treatments for this condition. Early treatment leads to much better results. James was quiet for a long while. Then he shook his head softly and said, I just wanted to thank you. With all those people around just now, you were the only one who came to help me. I opened my mouth, but did not know what to say. To be humiliated so badly in public, and then immediately told you had a serious heart condition, no one could easily handle that. Not to mention, throughout it all, Ava had stood by, watching coldly. I said, very seriously, listen, man, to destroy yourself over someone like that is really not worth it. A flash of surprise crossed James' eyes. He probably had not expected me to say something like that. He smiled bitterly, with a hint of self-mockery. She does not love me. That is why things are the way they are. But she loves you. She is willing to do anything for you. I was the one who was too naive to think she had even a shred of real feelings for me. I shook my head. No, she does not love me either. Someone like her does not even understand what love is, let alone love someone well. To be blunt, the only person she has ever truly loved in her life is herself. James stared, stunned. But she chased after you for so many years. I shrugged. She would not even go to jail for me. That is called love. If she was really so deeply in love, she should be the one to take the fall herself, not pushing an innocent person into the fire. For a moment, James was speechless. He had likely never considered it from that perspective. I patted his arm. Believe it or not, as long as you keep letting her pull you along, you will only feel worse later. You have so much talent and skill. Why tie yourself to someone like her? James looked lost. He had been in love with Ava for 4 full years. All the pain he had endured in those years, he had swallowed quietly, never truly making up his mind to leave. Habit becomes second nature. Given enough time, it turns into instinct. So his dazed expression now was not strange at all. But emotions like this, no amount of advice really helps. You can drink all the sobering soup you want, but whether you finally come to your senses still depends on him. I did not expect to completely wake him up with just a few sentences. When I saw that the fluid in his bag was nearly empty, I stood up and said, I will go get the nurse to remove the 4. Just then, Hannah walked in with a nurse. Ava was right behind her. The moment she got inside, she grabbed my hand. She asked urgently, Danny, what did he say to you? Did he give you a hard time? In his current state, what could he possibly do to me? He just had a heart attack, all right? I felt a strange ache for James. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw him close his eyes, not even willing to glance at Ava. I pried Ava's fingers off mine, one by one. I said flatly, he did not say anything. He is very weak right now. Do not disturb him. Let's go. But Ava seemed nailed to the spot. She refused to budge. I nearly laughed aloud. She was too proud to apologize, yet in her heart, she could not bear to let him go. The male lead being stuck with her was truly the unluckiest guy in the world. The nurse came to remove James 4. Hannah stayed right there. Her eyes were full of concern. James, drink some water, she said softly, pouring a glass of warm water and helping him sit up. James gave her a faint smile. Thank you, Senior. You need to take care of yourself too, Hannah said gently. Otherwise, someone will be worried about you again. Her words were purely out of care. She was referring to James' mother as well. With her quiet, selfless nature, She would never take the chance to make it romantic. But what Ava heard was completely not that. In her ears, this was practically a declaration of war. She suddenly took 2 steps forward, grabbed Hannah and yanked her to the side, raised her hand and slapped her. Smack! Who allowed you to touch him? I just stood there, speechless. Ava, your brain is truly something else. You do not hold back when you hurt James yourself, but when someone else takes good care of him, you cannot stand it. This is not love. It is a twisted possessiveness, treating someone like your personal property. Hannah was dazed from the slap. She flinched backward. Her cheek quickly swelled, red and angry. James' face went dark as night. Senior, Ava, what are you doing? The moment he opened his mouth, it only poured fuel on Ava's fire. She sneered. The person you have always liked is her. Is that right? James nearly laughed in anger. What nonsense are you saying? Hannah, worried that his agitation would worsen his condition, quickly stepped in to calm him. James, do not worry. I am fine. But the red welt on her face was blinding. She reached out to help him, wanting to stop him from getting too upset. The moment their hands touched, Ava completely lost it. How long have you two been carrying on behind my back? I had no words. For a second, I almost wanted to defend over-the-top romance stories. Because this scene before me was even crazier than the book. James' voice, straining to hold back his rage, rose. Ava, watch your mouth. Ava seemed to realize she had crossed a line. A flicker of panic appeared in her eyes. She shifted her feet forward, as if she wanted to say sorry, but then stopped herself abruptly. James took a deep breath. He raised his hand and pointed toward the door. You go. From today onward, I do not want to see you again. His tone was terrifyingly calm. Only then did Ava really start to panic. James, I did not mean that. Ava, I had to speak up and cut her off. I resign myself to playing peacemaker. He needs rest. You're also tired today. I will take you home. Ava did not know whether to go in or back off. She hesitated for several seconds. She probably realized that if she kept hanging around, it would only be more embarrassing. In the end, she left the hospital with me. She did not say a word the entire way. She was lost in her own world. Her head was probably full of James. When we got to her mansion gate, I was about to tell her we had arrived, when she finally spoke. Danny, I have something to tell you. She seemed to have made a decision. Her voice was soft, but carried a sense of resolve. I have realized that the person I truly love is James. Let's end things here. I kept my face calm, but inside I was cussing up a storm. Seriously? Can you just leave the poor guy alone? You have already turned his life into such a mess. Who wants to wait too late true love? With this much energy, you would be better off going back to run your company, expand operations, and make more money. Would that not be better? All you think about all day is romance. It would be a miracle if your company still functioned properly. At this rate, you will eventually blow through all your family's fortune. I took a deep breath and pretended to look relieved, sighing. All right, Ava, then I will step aside for you. After watching her car disappear into the distance, I immediately texted James on iMessage. Ava just broke up with me. She might come looking for you. If you do not want to see her, have Hannah help cover for you. Find somewhere to lie low for a while. He replied fast, but his answer startled me. She is irrelevant to me now. She can come or not. I do not care. Even through the screen, I could feel the coldness and finality in his words. This was no longer the James who had once held Ava so dear. Before I could think of how to reply, he sent another message. Oh, by the way, is that job you mentioned still on the table? A month later, James officially started at my company. But before the end of the workday, the front desk delivered an exquisitely elaborate lunchbox. They said Ava had sent it. Looking through the clear lid, I saw each compartment arranged like a work of art. My head started to pound. Sigh. The female lead rediscovers her so-called true love and begins a regret-filled pursuit. This trope in over-the-top romance novels really shows up every single time. Thanks to my butterfly effect messing things up, the timeline was already completely unrecognizable. Ava's sudden awakening this time happened far earlier than in the original story. Nearby colleagues, unaware of the real story, murmured to each other, "Wow, this lunchbox is so elegant." But Does it smell a little burnt? Someone immediately elbowed him. Are you crazy? That is handmade by Miss Ava herself. You dare to complain? Those few immediately backed off, sneaking glances toward my office, pretending to bury themselves in their keyboards. I sighed. I stepped out of my office. The people around me rushed to say hello, then each quickly scurried back to their workstations. James looked a bit uncomfortable. He spoke up. Do not worry. I will throw it out right away. You are not keeping it. I asked. He shook his head. No chapter number. James had already given up on Ava. No matter how clumsy her attempts to win him back, they could no longer sway him. I naturally did not plan to say anything more. I just said calmly, do whatever you want with it. For the next full month, Ava sent lunchboxes to James at the office almost every day. But it did not make a single splash. Meanwhile, the design projects James turned in were each more stunning than the last. He single-handedly pulled the company's performance up to the next level. Everyone was ridiculously busy, running around like crazy. Who had the time to play along with a rich girl's miserable, lovesick chase scene? Watching the account balance soar, my mood was amazing. See, men really do need to focus on their careers first. James' mindset was also completely in the right place. He was full of drive, staying late every day on his own. He had completely cut all ties with Ava. Whether her apologies or her sentimental messages, all disappeared without a trace. Finally, Ava could not take it anymore. One afternoon, she showed up in person at the company entrance. The moment she arrived, I knew about it. Everyone in the company knew her car. 2 months ago, she used it to pick me up from work nearly every day. In a flash, the target had switched to James. My colleagues were cringing so hard for me, they could have dug holes with their toes. As for me, I just found it a bit amusing. The weather forecast also said there would be a huge storm today. Was it possible that I was about to witness a classic confession in the rain scene in person? Honestly, I was actually looking forward to this kind of drama. So I very naturally joined my colleagues and stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows to watch. The rain was pouring down in sheets. The lone Maybach parked in the downpour looked especially out of place. Even funnier was the figure that stepped out of the car. James was sitting at his desk right then, head down sketching. His phone on the desk lit up and dimmed again. One call after another went unanswered. Presumably, Ava called once, saw he was not answering, and simply gave up. She tossed her umbrella aside and stood in the pouring rain. Wow, someone murmured in amazement. Then a bunch of people started whispering among themselves. Finally, someone called out to James, James, it looks like she is here for you. Take a look yourself. James walked to the window, frowning as he glanced down. I leaned over and asked, Are you going down there? His reply was cold and blunt. Call the police. What? She has been harassing me for a while now. He added impatiently. I let it slide and did not respond, but now she's camping out at the company door. That is going too far. Several colleagues nodded vigorously in agreement. Exactly. People like that, who act on impulse and don't care about anything, are the worst. Who knows what she will do next? She can shamelessly beg you now, and later, she will probably demand 10 times in return. He has made it so clear. Can she not hear? Why is she so unable to let go? This is ridiculous. I clear my throat. It is pouring rain, and she still made a special trip to see me. You are not touched at all. James' expression remained calm. She can afford cold medicine. It is not like her legs are broken and she cannot walk. I mentally gave him a thumbs up. He suddenly seemed to remember something and asked, Oh, Hannah said her mom made braised ribs today. Want to come mooch dinner together? I did not hesitate. Let us go. I had the driver bring the car out of the underground garage. James and I left the office together. As the car drove out through the main gate, it happened to pass right by Eva. She was confused at first, obviously not understanding why James and I were in the same car. But quickly, she wiped the rain from her face and yelled at James. James, I know I was wrong. Give me one more chance, please. I tapped the brake. I took my time studying her soaked, miserable appearance through the window. The old haughty rich girl attitude was completely gone. I turned to James and asked. Not even one reply. He thought for 2 seconds, then rolled the window down just a crack. We are in a hurry to get home. Please do not block the road. As soon as he finished, he rolled the window right back up, as if leaving it open 1 second longer might let the rain or some other awful thing seep in. Ava stood frozen in place, as if someone had pressed pause on her entire being. The driver hit the gas. The wheels plowed through the standing water, splashing a huge wave of water that soaked her to death. Through the rearview mirror, she looked completely deflated, with a face that showed she had no idea how things ended up like this. I glanced down at my phone. A new alert popped up. James had just won a major design award. James, you are incredible, I said, genuinely. We need to order some extra dishes tonight to celebrate properly. James smiled. Mr. James is an honored guest. Today we absolutely need a feast. After that day, Ava disappeared for a long while. First, word got around that her cold had developed into pneumonia, and she was in the hospital. Then, there were rumors that her company's finances were in trouble, a serious crisis. When someone is down, everyone kicks them. The moment she ran into trouble, a bunch of opportunists appeared to take advantage, making things even more chaotic. Still, she was, after all, the female lead of this novel. Within 6 months, Ava had regained control of the company. But the infighting had been brutal, and the family's wealth had been severely drained. Things were clearly going downhill. Meanwhile, on my end, I took the chance to swallow up the market share they had lost. Plus, joining forces with James, the company charged ahead powerfully, staying well above their level. On the day James and Hannah were married, I served as a guest man. The wedding was grand and full of joy. A festive atmosphere filled the entire room. I also blended in with the crowd of relatives and friends, not wasting a single bite of the fine food. As the wedding drew to a close, I happened to notice, far behind the crowd, Ava is standing there silently. She looked much more worn down. The bold, dazzling glamour she once had was nearly invisible. I quickly looked away, pretending I had not seen her. On stage, the couple exchanged rings and made their vows before everyone to spend their lives together. The moment their lips met, Ava finally broke down, turning and leaving in humiliation. I raised my glass and made a toast to the couple from distance. Congratulations to you both. May you have a long and happy life together. Because only when you meet the right person is love truly worthwhile. The clearest awakening in life is realizing you always have the right to walk away from any role that you play. True victory is not revenge. It is having the clarity to step away from the wrong relationship and pour that energy back into yourself. Love is not control or sacrifice. It is helping each other grow. Always remember, you hold the pen that rewrites your own fate. Only when you first learn to love your own independent, honest self will the world truly begin to love you in return.